I've been owning and using the Sony FX6 for about 4 months now, and there's just some cons that have been getting on my nerves ever since I've been using this camera. And for this video, I want to talk about it with you. So before this video starts, don't get it twisted. I absolutely love the Sony FX6, but no camera is perfect. And honestly, these cons are nothing major. These are kind of just nitpicky cons because I love this camera so much and I really don't have a big issue with it. So I had to just make a list of a couple cons that are small, but they are highly annoying. So let's just get it started before I get blown away in this chair. I'm in hurricane season right now in Florida. So con number one is going to be the top handle button. Now the FX6, when you purchase it, it comes with a top handle, and on the top handle, it has a little button where you can navigate through the menu system. And for me, I completely hate it. The button is really small, and whenever you try to navigate through it, it just doesn't properly go to the proper menu setting that you push it to. It's very sensitive to touch. If you push it in, you're gonna click on the menu that you want, but in order to navigate through it, you kind of gotta push up. And when I'm pushing up, I sometimes be pushing in and clicking on something that I don't want it to click on because the menu button is so small and my fingers are so big, and it's just so annoying. I just don't like it, and honestly I just use the button that's on the side handle more than on the top handle. Con number two for me is going to be the microphone mount. So with the FX6, it comes with a microphone mount on the top handle. But this microphone mount, it just seems very cheap. It seems very plasticky. It seems very flimsy. Whenever I put it inside my doctor bag fully rigged out, I get kind of nervous when I zip it up because it's kind of putting pressure on the microphone mount. I'm just scared any moment it's gonna snap off. So now I just lay my FX6 on its side so it doesn't snap off. But to me, it just feels cheap. It feels plasticky. It doesn't feel sturdy. And again, any minute if like it's going to break, and I don't want to know how much it's going to cost to get that fixed. So con number three is going to be no 3.5mm jack. And the reason why that's a con for me is because whenever I use wireless lavalier mics, I have to plug in a 3.5mm jack. And because of that, I now have to buy a 3.5 to XLR adapter. And when using an adapter, you can sometimes experience frequency issues and all sorts of issues that you really don't want when using audio. So for me, the reason why it's a really big annoying con is because I be forgetting that adapter every single time I go and use a wireless mic, because I primarily use a shotgun microphone like the one I'm holding now. I don't really use lavs unless a client specifically requests me to use a lav. So the fact that I'm always forgetting them, the fact that I now have to buy an adapter just to make it work and still not even work 100%, I think that's really annoying, and something that if Sony ever does make a version 2, they should add a 3.5mm jack, especially if people who are using gimbals, if they use the FX6 on a gimbal, remove the top handle, now you have no audio. But if you have a small 3.5mm jack on the body, you could definitely solve that issue. Con number four, which is honestly my biggest con yet that irks my soul the most, is that the VMount battery plate blocks the SD card slots. If you have a big VMount battery attached to this camera and you have to remove your SD cards, it is like a hassle. You have to squeeze and pinch your fingers together to try to wiggle the SD card out, because if you remove the VMount battery, the camera's gonna shut off. So if you don't want to turn the camera off, you want to quickly just do a hot swap, you can't do that because the VMount battery plate is literally in the way. It's not necessarily Sony's fault, but if there's any type of aftermarket brand that can make like a smaller plate to where you can still squeeze in the SD card and not have to squeeze your fingers in and cramp your fingers up, then that would be amazing. But they don't have that right now. So now I gotta deal with the issues of trying to squeeze my finger in every single time when my VMount battery plate is on. It is annoying. It's not the end of the world, but that out of every con on this list is my biggest con. So con number five is going to be the menu slash thumbnail issue. And this is kind of an annoying bad habit issue personally, but whenever you want to watch back some footage that you already recorded, you have to click on thumbnail. And then once you click on thumbnail, if you then remember that you got to go through the menu and maybe change your frame rate or change a different type of setting that you have, you can click on menu and it's going to overlay the thumbnail menu that you already clicked on. So now you're gonna have your thumbnail on the bottom, and then you're gonna have the menu layout on top of the thumbnail. So when all that's happening, if you look up and you see a really cool shot that you wanna get, you can't just hit record and it just cancels all out and you start recording. Like my A7S III, when I was in the menu settings and I was watching back footage or going through my menu, if I looked up and seen a really cool shot, I can just hit record and it's automatically gonna close it out and start recording. But with the FX6, it doesn't do that. You literally have to back out of the menu setting, back out of the thumbnail. It's more of a personal bad habit for me because it's something that I always did with the A7S III. And that is why it's con number 5 for me, because I wish it was like the A7S III when it comes to that aspect. Finally, con number 6 is going to be no InBody stabilization. And the reason why it's a con for me, because coming from a camera that had InBody stabilization, it really saved me in a lot of situations. Now I know with the FX6, it's a sacrifice, either having internal NDs or having InBody stabilization. Me personally, I would rather have internal NDs, so that's why I'm not really complaining too much. But if this camera had internal NDs and InBody stabilization, it would truly be a work of art, honestly. And I know that you really couldn't put InBody stabilization with internal ND. You kind of gotta sacrifice which one you want because of the sensor moving around too much with the internal NDs built inside. But that is it. That is literally all the cons that I have so far with this camera. Again, all in all, this is an amazing camera. I love it. I don't regret the purchase and I don't want to sell it. I think that you should highly pick up a Sony FX6 if you're even considering a cinema camera. So without further ado, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to see you in the next one. Abiantu, Buongiorno.